My name is Caitlin, and I am a victim of sexual assault.
I'm Jonathan Fuchs, and I'm a survivor of sexual assault.
My name is Erin, and I'm a sexual assault survivor.
So sexual assault is any non-consensual contact with another person that involves overpowering them, controlling them, manipulating them, coercing, pressuring, anything like that, where you're imposing upon somebody else with some kind of sexual or act that the person did not ask for. So it can be anything from somebody touching somebody without their consent to what we consider rape, which is, penetration of somebody. So all of that.
And we were playing a game. I can't remember if it was King's Cup or it might have been like that app game, like Piccolo, whatever. It was some sort of like drinking game. And there were, I want to say, at least 3 other people in the room who were all his fraternity brothers. And that's the last thing that I remember.
The party opened up, and so after the other sorority left, everyone was getting kind of mad, and they started inviting all their friends. And so this group of girls from another sorority came in, and she was in the group. But I didn't notice when they walked in. I was pretty drunk at that point. That was when I started to get a little too drunk, and things are a little bit hazy for me from there. I remember her walking up to me and talking to me of just, it was a normal conversation for a little bit, and then she just randomly goes, "You're kind of cute. Why'd you join a fraternity?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm really into the whole idea of a brotherhood, having close friends that you can just hang out with and live with." And she said, "I joined a sorority for the booze and the boys." That's the line that I remember her saying.
This individual, I was in a loving and committed relationship with him, and he was in the Navy, or is in the Navy, and he went through a 7-month deployment, so I didn't see him for 8 months. So I was at a party, and somebody who expressed interest on me kind of did a sneak kiss, and I was like, whoa, what's going on? And so the next day I'm in a pure panic. I have to tell my boyfriend who's overseas that this guy kissed me. I was trying to build up the courage to tell him, and I told him on the very last night. We talked about it, and from what I interpreted by the end of the night before we went to bed was we resolved it. And so we talked through it, resolved it, and then I went to bed. I woke up to being raped by him. In my head, I took it, all that I could tell myself was, this is punishment for what I had done while he was gone. Because, what else are you going to do to try to justify that sort of thing happening to you? And so I pushed him off. I kept saying no, and no became a sexy word to him. And so it persisted, and then the next day I left, but completely confused as to what even happened.
Many times people have been assaulted by somebody they know. In most situations it is somebody they know. And, given that they've had some kind of prior relationship with them, even if it's just, an acquaintance friendship, I think when something like this happens, it's completely confusing because they never expected that to happen from somebody that they knew. So it's a huge betrayal of the person in terms of expectations in the relationship, and, absolutely overstepping somebody's boundaries and putting them in a very, very distressing situation. Rarely do we get somebody in here who was assaulted by a complete stranger. Most of them are acquaintances, friends, friends of friends, things like that.
I felt like I was waking up and like realizing where I was for the first time. And I remember I saw him and I was kind of relieved to see him at first because up until that point we had been really close friends. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm fine. And then it took like one more second for me to realize actually what was happening. And at that point I just didn't know what to process. And that's when he asked me like, are you okay? Is something wrong? And I just couldn't answer. I was like, I need to go. And that's when I just like grabbed all of my clothes off the floor and just ran out of the room.
The next thing that I remember is I am in a closet and she is on top of me and I'm not wearing anything anymore. And I pushed her off and I said, what the hell? And she said, oh my gosh, is this okay? Are you okay? Is everything good? And just like this look of panic was on her face and kind of a little bit of concern. And I just remember feeling really confused.
I didn't say anything. I remember just feeling like sick to my stomach and then somehow going back to bed. And then I don't even know if he fully understood like when I broke up with him and told him like, you hurt me, like I can't be with you, like what that even meant. Which I don't understand how somebody can do that and think that it's okay. That's what I'll never understand.
So I think sexual assault and sexual violence and harassment and stalking are a problem throughout the United States. I think they're a problem throughout the world by the actions of men and cultures that have existed for centuries. It's wrong when it occurs, whether it's a form of stalking or a form of bullying or harassment or outright sexual assault. It's wrong. I think this is a safe campus compared to other university campuses, but that doesn't mean that matters of concern don't occur.
You can have like schools be like, we're gonna expel you from campus and you can't come back. But I don't think that that's gonna provide a lasting change until you change the culture, and you can't change the culture from outside, you have to change the culture from within. And I think that's something I'm really looking forward to doing as part of my Greek life experience, is being kind of a catalyst for that change of culture. And hopefully my fraternity is able to initiate that on this campus.
The first time stepping in is definitely the hardest. And getting people to understand that you have support as the person trying to intervene in this situation is something that I think is really important. And then I think people don't talk to each other after because I think it's really awkward and scary for friendships and relationships, and going up to somebody that you know and being like, hey, did you do this or do X? And for a lot of people, like, we live in a really big world, and once you find like your group of people, like, it's really hard to like not support each other like almost indefinitely. And so coming up to that situation and like potentially jeopardizing a relationship with somebody is something that I think scares a lot of people away, and it's trouble that they'd rather not deal with.
Many are afraid to tell their parents for a variety of different reasons. Most of them not, I haven't heard them say necessarily because they think their parents are going to be mad at them. Certainly that's going to be a concern. Are they going to blame me because I was at a party and I was drinking or something like that? Many of them don't want to burden their parents with it, and they want to handle it themselves. Remember, this is an age where, 18 to 22, where you're off on your own for the first time, and you want to handle as many things as you can by yourself.
I have not told my parents about it. I told my older sister, and she was very angry. Yeah, I remember she said, who is this girl? I'm going to find her. It's not okay. You can't do that to my little brother.
So I told my mom casually over happy hour over this last spring break. It was an opportunity for us to sit down and talk a little bit more about like what's going on and not make it such a serious and like dark thing that people expect it to be. So I was very thankful for that in that moment. I think my dad, it almost takes it a little bit harder, and like to see him get like emotionally upset about that would make me just like break down, and I don't think I'm ready for that.
I told my mom first because, I have a great relationship with my mom. I'm definitely daddy's girl. And I feel like there's just a different dynamic of telling your mom that you were raped than it is to telling your father. Sorry, hold on. I told my mom, and my dad works in the evenings, and so she said when he comes home, I'm gonna tell him. My mom never really told me exactly how she said it, but she said that she did it gently, which, of course, how can you deliver that news to a father? So he came into my room and just sat down on the edge of my bed, and he just kind of like sat there and he hugged me, and like that was honestly almost harder than dealing with the rape itself was watching my dad deal with it, because I'm a daddy's girl, you know. And he just like sat there and hugged me and was like, "It's not your fault." And that was like the first time that anyone had actually said that to me directly, like it wasn't your fault.
And I think, unfortunately, a lot of times people don't come forward because those initial folks that they told may have given them a response that was not helpful at all. Some of those responses could be blameful, but I think a lot of the responses are what we refer to as unintentionally blaming the person, asking questions that can then be perceived by the survivor as, well, are you saying I did something wrong in some way?
Some of the stories I've heard of these resources not even being that beneficial, which I hate to say, you know, because they're here for a reason, and I know the people behind them are really passionate about helping. I think it's just the resources that we have aren't great. And so to subject myself to that, to be vulnerable, but not get, I guess, what I expected out of it, didn't seem worth it.
I decided to go to CAPS. And so I scheduled an appointment, and I met with this lady. I don't even remember what her name was. I only met with her once. And I sat down, and she was like, "Okay, well, what do you want to talk about it?" And I said, "I think I was raped." And that's exactly what I said, because at that time I didn't know. I was so unsure. I was hoping she would give me the answers. I was hoping I would tell her what happened, and she would sit me down and be like, "Honey, it's not your fault." And that's not at all what happened. One of her initial responses and questions to me was, "Well, exactly how much did you drink? How often do you drink? Is that normal for you? Did you tell him that you didn't want to sleep with him?" Just all of these questions that, regardless if she meant it that way, came out as blaming on me. And this was at a time where I still had not processed what had happened to me, and I was looking for answers, and that was the response that I got. And so it just killed me. It made me think even more so that it was just my fault. And then after trying to reach out, being unsuccessful, I again returned to my, well, I'm just going to handle it the way I've been handling it, which is not talking about it, ignoring it, and drinking and going out and doing whatever.
The next year, I ended up going to CAPS, the counseling service at OSU. The lady just trying to get to the bottom of what was going on, and we ended up bringing up that incident, and she was really shocked to learn that I had gone through a sexual assault.
I don't even know what the university would have actually done. And having that sit in the back of my mind is pretty sad. Like, to feel like I don't have the system to fully commit to and go through, and have positive benefits come out of it.
Sexual assault and discrimination are prohibited. The university is very clear about that. We have adopted these policies and standards for preventing to the best of our ability. We seek to both inform the OSU community about that policy and steps to prevent, and also support survivors of sexual assault and discrimination, and provide for due process.
I for sure will never forgive my rapist. I want nothing good to come from his life, you know? And like, I hate saying that. I hate feeling so much hatred towards him, because that's not who I am as a person. But things will come around.
And I can sit here and I can say with confidence that I have forgiven my attacker. I have forgiven him for myself and not for him. And I do hope that he is able to deal with what he did in a healthy way.
It makes me feel really awful. and I don't think she realized how much it affected me. I would try to make her understand that. It pretty much changed my life since then, and I really don't want to ever see her again.
One of the reasons that we started the advocacy center is we don't have an agenda. We're here to help the survivor. So it's not like we want you to report, or we want you to see a counselor, or we want you to do anything. What we want is for folks to come in here and share what they're comfortable sharing, and then we'll help them identify what's the next step for you. And then they can decide what would work best for them, whether they want to see a counselor, some do, some don't. Whether they want to report it. Again, some do, some don't. So if we could have people come here first, because of the confidentiality and because our goal is to meet them where they're at in terms of what they want, then we can help them along that process.
I would say to anyone who is a survivor that you're not alone. There will be people in your life that will try to put the blame on you, and it is going to be very difficult. When you reach out to people, it will get easier, and that was just my biggest mistake. Don't try to deal with it on your own.
I just wanted them to know that I support them and they are not alone as he may have made them feel.
Talk to someone about it. That was a big thing for me. Don't just bury it no matter what your friends say. How awesome of a story it is. It's real. It happens to men. It's a sexual assault. It's rape. And it's not something that should just be glossed over. It should be brought up, and you should not be afraid to reach out to other people and make sure that the other person is held responsible for their actions.
Don't judge yourself and don't blame yourself in any way.